Hello, good people. How you doing? You are connected to SNN, and that stands for Street News Now, Six Guys and You. We congregate every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. in the middle of their Central Time, and of course, 6 p.m. on the West Coast Pacific Time. You can go to YouTube and find our channel SNN Street News Now. Make sure you subscribe, like, and share. Also, catch us on Facebook Live, Twitter, and Twitch. And so it's going to be half of us right now because there's three guys and you, and everybody else will congregate as they come along. Our fearless leader, Lee Michaels, will join us. Professor Reggie Miles will join us later on in the program as well. So let's not even try to waste any more time with the continuing of what I've dubbed all of us, the MICs, the Masters of Intellectual Chaos. Let's bring forth the man who changes his name when he feels like it, but right now he is Mike Love. How you doing, Mike Love?
Good. At first, I thought you said the NICs.
No.
I was like, oh, they're the
NICs. No, not the Negroes. No.
I was like, ooh, dang, the NICs are here.
We can't have that.
You should be afraid.
Yeah, but be very, very afraid. Absolutely.
Afraid.
Also on doc, we have Mr. Buck Wild. What's up, Buck?
You know what? You said three. Is another person missing? I thought it was going to be four of us tonight.
I did too, but when I started the intro, I looked down and Ron had disappeared.
Oh, damn it. No wonder you didn't bring Ron. You always bring Ron in first.
Yeah, I do.
Like, what happened?
Yeah,
I think I got kicked out.
No, he disappeared. It reminds me like the Invisible Man.
He got his leg caught in the X-split.
It's been known to happen. Yes. Oh hell!
All right.
So everybody,
Katrina.
There you go with the hello. Says hello, Doc. Hello to her as well. How you doing, Katrina? What's up to John Lewis? Hey, man.
Is that John Lewis from Atlanta?
No. John, where you from?
You mean the one who died last year?
Yeah.
No, not him. No.
Yeah, that's him.
Okay.
No, that's him.
Yeah.
No, if that was a good trouble, John Lewis, I would stop this live right now.
Hey,
yeah, that's him.
He was using the heavenly link.
Okay. Yeah. Ominous dominoes. That's too much spirit for me, Doc. But again, it's one of those things where, one thing I like about doing this show before we get started is the fact that you have people that you probably haven't heard from in years reconnect with you. They find you on social media. You get a chance to reconnect with them, which is always a beautiful thing. Okay, so John says he's Lee's friend.
I'm Lee's friend. I'm Lee's friend.
Right.
Listen, before we go any further,
sure.
Chris, your mic, I don't think you're using the right mic. You sound a little bit more echoey than normal. You might want to check.
Let me. I did check before I got in here, so let me check again.
It sounds good to me.
Yeah, it sounds good to me too.
Sounds echoey.
Let's see. Audio.
I mean, the mic's right in front of your face. It shouldn't be echoey.
Yeah. I'm looking at it. Okay.
There it is. There it is.
Right. You know what? And I'm not going to take the hit for this because that's why at times I like to take what I.
Oh, turn your echo off too.
Turn my echo off.
You know what it could have been? I had the volume up high and when you said it changed, it was me turning the volume down on my desktop speaker.
Oh.
So it actually wasn't him. He got blamed for no reason at all.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds great now.
Okay.
Sounds great.
Yeah, I turned it down. It was too high.
Shame on you, Mike Love.
Okay. You'll get over it.
I know, right? Let's see.
I know, I will.
John says from KATZ.
Oh, your old station, Mike, right?
Music 16 KATZ. Sweet 16 day, $16 in cash. Coming up on the 16th day of every month from Music 16 KATZ.
Once a jock, always a jock. That's right.
Music
16. Woo!
And good evening, Lee from London. How you doing? Thank you for being here as well. Oh, what's John typed here? Mike,
inside the quiet storm.
You poked me on Facebook.
Oh no, him and I forgot the other lady's name just right off the top of my head because I'm 64 and I be forgetting shit. Mm-hmm. But they be poking the hell out of me.
I never quite understood what the whole poking thing was, but
I can never get into it myself.
He said before your time, right? There it is. And that was Lisa London. She has a show called Inside the Quiet Storm. Sounds real good.
Oh, yeah. No, Lisa quite well. A great friend of mine. She is fantastic. Has over 20 affiliates on various stations, even overseas.
Around the world.
Yeah, even overseas in London, yes.
Okay. Hey.
Very excellent stuff. So that's what happens when you put time in and you love what you do.
That's exactly it.
Exactly. Let's get started with this topic I wanted to bring to the table. As we saw now, a viral video of an 8-year-old African-American boy being detained by police in Syracuse.
Oh, yeah.
He was detained where?
He was detained in Syracuse, New York, for allegedly stealing a bag of chips.
You didn't see that video, Mike?
No.
Oh, wow. Can we? Is there any way we can play that video?
No, not at this time.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it was deep. It was very deep.
Sorry.
So it's been posted since Monday on Twitter. Is viewed by more than 2.3 million people at this point. And you see this white male cop seen holding a black child's arms behind his back as he put him into his police car. A bystander named Kenneth Jackson saw the incident and wrote it on his page there, on his Twitter page. And he said, looks like a baby to me, because the boy is screaming and hollering. And he says about the potato chips or the chips, I'll pay for it, leave him alone. And then you look at the timeline that has happened. The mayor of Syracuse, New York, his name is Ben Walsh, said the following. The officers returned the child to his family and discussed the incident with his father before leaving without filing any charges. So allegedly he stole a bag of chips at the store. The cops had grabbed him. Now, mind you, more than one cop. It's like cops, plural, like 3 or 4 at this time, over an 8-year-old African-American boy. Some people respond on Twitter. One person typed, how many cops they need for this one baby? Another person typed, this boy needs to learn a lesson. This might scare him to be good. And then it goes into the fact that the father, his name is Anthony Weah, says the cops were friendly when they brought his son home, but after he saw the video, he now plans to file a complaint. And so when you look at these type of videos that happened since Monday, and of course it's gone viral, like I said, the question becomes, did the cops overreact or did they handle it appropriately? And yes, they overreacted. I've been doing stories like this now going on 30 years, and it gets worse and worse. And I've never seen any end in sight. When you're dealing with youth or anybody African-American at this point, when it comes to white cops, and once again, not all white cops are racist, I understand that, but the ones that are doing the most dirt and putting in the most grimy work are getting the most exposure. And when we see the 8-year-old boy hollering and screaming, he easily, I mean this wholeheartedly, he easily could have had a bullet in his head. That's how far we've gotten. Because remember the young man from Michigan? You saw that video not too long ago. He's running for his life, and he had to be, detained, put down like that, and took a gun and he could have been. Look, what bothers me when we see these videos is that it can easily go left. It can easily go in a direction where it should not go because of the fact that you do have white racist cops in there that have been taught to do this. So why is it, for example, you couldn't handle it in a better way? You being an officer, you're supposed to be the adult. If he did steal the chips, it wasn't warrant the scaring. Now, don't get me wrong. There are programs out there, like back in the day, they had this program called Scared Straight.
Yes, we all remember that.
Man, that was a great TV. It was like a made-for-TV, really quick document. But then it went into a TV series like a few years ago, went into a reality show, Scared Straight. So you have various children from various states going into prison and trying to scare them straight, obviously, before they go into a life of crime. Now, if he's a juvenile delinquent at 8 years old, if he has a long-serving list of wrongs that he's done, okay, maybe we'll try that type of operation. Try something to the point where you don't shock him into the point of, why do you think certain people of color do not like cops. For this reason alone, can give you that type of memory. This reason alone can make you say, you know what, I'm going to file a complaint like the father is about to do. And it just keeps getting worse and worse. It's not getting any better, as far as I see it, because you're fighting centuries and centuries of institutionalized racism. That's hard to fight. For example, Malcolm X said it best. They traded in the sheets, of course, Ku Klux Klan members. They traded in the sheets for nightsticks. They traded in the sheets for dogs. They traded in the sheets for bullets and a badge. So when you're given the right to kill black folk, you're protected by the law. You're going to go that route. And that's the scary thing about this. And the 8-year-old, I'm sorry he went through this type of situation. It could have went in a drastic situation after that. I'm glad he's safe. Hell, I'm glad he's alive at this point, because it could have went into a whole different direction. But we need to realize that when we fight this, we are fighting history of racism.
But you know what? I understand what you're saying. And what you're saying is very valid. But when I saw it and I saw the reaction on social media, I was like, there are a lot of racist cops. We know this. But those weren't the ones. Mm-hmm. Those cops were, they weren't being super nice and friendly or whatever, because they were trying to scare the kid. Yeah. But I believe they did that kid a favor, because maybe this whole incident will scare him straight. Maybe from now on, he won't be stealing any more chips, and hopefully he won't be stealing anything. And he'll have a newfound fear of doing wrong. That's, I think we're so quick to jump on the bandwagon of, before I say anything about that, the guy who was filming.
Yes.
I wanted to tell him to shut the F up. Come on. He was instigating to me. I think he was trying to get attention because he was filming. He knew he was going to post it or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. I was just like, let the cop do his job. The kid's not in handcuffs. Kid's not in any kind of danger. They took the kid home. What you're supposed to do with an 8-year-old. Mm-hmm. But this guy, I'll pay for the chips. Leave him alone. Get your hands off him. You're roughing him up. Blah, 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 blah. Shut up, Negro. Go home. Don't you have anything better to do? Don't you have any kids to take care of at your house? That's what I was thinking. I thought he was mischaracterizing those cops. I thought those cops were actually trying to do the kid a favor, taking him home and explaining everything to his parents, and most importantly, scare the kid, letting him see what the inside of the back of a police car looks like. So maybe he don't want to do that again and be there again. That was my thoughts.
Oh, that's good. That's a good point to look at, I guess, from the bystander, what's his name is Kenneth Jackson, 37 years old, who filmed it. And what I just said about what happens when you see certain white cops that have people of color in detainment, where it can go south or go wrong. So probably in his mind, he's fearing the worst. Don't do anything to that child that he does not deserve. So I know what you're saying. It could be, I would go with overreaction, but at this stage in the game where we are in our lives, it's better to say that or nothing at all. Now, you want him to shut up, and I understand where you're coming from that perspective, but I think where he was coming from was, we've seen too many of our people's blood in the street, or surely damaged and beaten by racist white cops. So he's coming from that perspective. So don't get me wrong. Either way, I think you have a valid point where you said what you said, but at the same time, I think from where he was coming from, he didn't want no harm to come to that 8-year-old boy.
And the camera was on. I think he was showing out. Who are you saying, Mike? I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Michael.
I could have just shut up.
No, it's fine. I got plenty of time to wait. One of the things, and you guys both have said some things that are monumental to what needs to be an awareness. But the biggest problem, we've gone too far. Excuse me. If we go from Rodney King all the way down to whoever the last was it Dante Wright, the last African American that was been shot by the police, whatever the case.
No, the guy in Michigan last week.
Okay, the Michigan last week. Okay. You know, one of the things that we have to do as a race, see, because it's very easy, and I'm not criticizing what you just said, Chris, but it's very easy for us to get on one side of it and say, you know, hey, the cops need to do this and they need to do that and blah, 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 blah. But one of the things that the black community isn't saying to the black community is that we got to get out of the crime business. For us, crime does not pay. And for some reason, we keep wanting to associate ourselves with that. And we have a lot of influencers amongst ourselves in our race who are putting this stereotype out there. And young folks like this 8-year-old and that little 12, what the guy was like 12 or 15 years old in Chicago when the cops shot him in the alley. Remember, he was carrying the gun, Chris?
Oh, yeah, I can't remember his name right now, but I know you're talking about.
Yeah, but I wouldn't remember his name, but I'm saying, didn't the cops shoot him or did he didn't get shot?
Yeah, he got shot.
Okay. You know, and that's one of the things that we got to start doing. See, we have to help ourselves. We get on the pity train, and I'm not saying this based on what you said, but I'm glad you said it because we gotta stop. Crime don't pay for us. Crime ain't cute. Crime is no status that you want on your record. And we gotta stop. And we gotta talk to our community and say, hey, we gotta stop this foolishness. There's too many things, there's too many opportunities. There was a time in our lives, especially for the panel that you see tonight, that came up in the late 60s and 70s, and we didn't have a lot in our favor.
And 80s.
In the 80s, okay? But the 80s, it was starting to grow. But social media, streaming media devices, and the list goes on, has pulled us ahead at such a high level that trying to maintain some position of blackness isn't always the answer. That should start from within. I know I'm a black man. I'm an African American. You know, I'm doing it from within. I don't need to be influenced. I don't have to watch Superfly. I don't have to watch, what's the dude that play on the 50 Cent thing? What's the guy's name? That was
Dolomite?
No, the other guy.
Not
50
Dolomite.
the last series he did, the guy that was playing the villain. He owned the nightclub with Tommy. The whole thing.
Ghost.
Powers. Yeah, Ghost and
Ghost.
Powers. Right.
Yeah. You know, I'm 64.
Power.
I can't be remembering stuff off the top of my damn head.
Apparently.
Yeah. So, you know, Ghost. See, these stereotypes don't help the situation. I understand you telling the story, but it's actually a little too sensitive. It's too sensitive that we can't take it and handle it in a way that we understand that that's a story being told. We have a community of people who are legitimizing crime, and it needs to stop. And the only way I believe it will stop if it starts coming from other African Americans. And we're not doing it. We're not doing the best job we can to convey this message to the community. See, one of the things, and then they block off this thing, and I'm not going against my own people, don't get it twisted, but there's a difference between the projects or low-income housing versus someone living on a farm, in a mobile home, in a trailer park. They're both levels of poverty. One's for the Anglos and the other one's for the Negroes. But the problem is we take ours and we want to expound on it when it's not at that level. It's what we're creating.
What do you
I'm
mean?
from a place, well, we create the crime zone ourselves. You see what I'm saying? You know, I was just going to say, I'm from a town called East St. Louis, Illinois. And it's easier to live in a town like East St. Louis, Illinois, than it is in most cities in America, because pretty much you don't have to do anything to live there. People just live off of, you know, general assistance, poverty. Now, there's some great folks there. And there's some people that has got a little cash. But for the most part, you can't take your poverty and expect somebody to feel sorry for you, and then you turn around and you compile it with crime and think it's okay. You see what I'm saying? All right, I got a friend of mine. I'm not going to mention his name. He was telling me, I asked him, because I used to get high. And I asked him, I said, "Oh, you still get high?" And he said, "Yeah." And I asked him, I said, "Well, because they put a CBD store in the city." And I asked him, I said, "Well, did you go to the CBD store and get your weed there?" And his remark was, excuse my candor here, he said, "No, I still get my shit from the niggas." You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So you're going to take
is he white? Is he white
no,
or
he's black?
Okay, yeah, I'm about to say. I hope he didn't use the N-word if he's white.
No. It was a term of endearment with our conversation. And I understand where he was coming from. But once again, why take that chance? Why take that chance? You got CBD stores.
Probably because it's cheaper.
It ain't no excuse. Ain't no probably because of my ass. It's illegal. And that's it. That's the bottom line. We cannot be in the illegal business. It's too easy to blame everything on us. It's too easy for us to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. It's too easy to be accused of a downtrodden situation on us. It can't happen. We got to stop. We got to get out of that business.
You know what's crazy, though?
What's that?
Is that criminals, people who do commit crimes, they never think that they're going to get caught. Oh, I ain't going to happen to me.
They don't care. Let me tell you something.
I don't think it's that they don't care. I think they don't think it's going to happen to them.
Trust me on this. I can't go into details. They don't care. It's a level of, it's psychological. It's psychological. They know they can get caught. They don't care. We've heard NWA use it in records, in Ice Cube, 3 hots in a cot. You know, when you are,
is that what that means? I never knew what that meant.
Yeah, that's going to jail. You get 3 meals a day, and you get somewhere to sleep, and you ain't got to pay no rent. So you would rather not go out and try to get a job and live the right way and have a roof over your head. So you go and commit a crime, and if they lock you up, you okay with it. You okay with being locked the F up.
That's deep.
That's deep.
Oh, man.
That's deep, Mike Love.
Look, I knew some guys growing up in Chicago, man, and they would steal from their mothers and grandmothers and ancestors.
Give a damn who they stole from.
Right, but my point is, you talked about 3 hots in the cot. It gets very cold here in Chicago, so all of a sudden, they knew that as soon as it got cold, hey, man, let me get in jail, man, so I'll be warm.
That's right.
I don't have a place to live, and I'll commit crime on purpose, yes.
Wow. They will do a crime. Now you get what I'm saying.
Now, I've seen that on TV.
No, that's real.
No, it's real, baby. It's real. You got some knuckleheads out here. They know. What do they have to do? And if they like to hoop or play around, they get to be what they know. Half the damn people already locked up. Yo, what's up? That's
all their friends.
Hey, what's up, baby? You know what I'm saying? You know I was gonna come here and be hanging with you. All that old foolishness. Yeah. It's just dumb.
It's scary to think about.
All right, Reggie. Yeah. We'll see you when you get in, Reggie.
Yeah, Reggie. We'll see you when you get here. And it's got to stop. We got to stop the self-promote 3 square meals a day. That's right. We got to stop self-promoting ourselves in Crime Inc. It ain't no place for us. We can get out. We don't have to be there. You know, Go ahead.
It would help if the actors like Omari Hardwick, who played Ghost, would come out and say stuff like that. Hey, listen, Ghost is a character, it's a story, and it's not real. Don't think that he's a hero.
Right. Or if he doesn't come out
help.
and say it on television, do something that backs it up. Work in the community. Go out instead of having and I'm not talking about him per se, but instead of having a lavish life that we see on the internet, let's think about what's going on out here. You know, it's the same thing, and I'm not accusing the NBA players of anything wrong, but kids are influenced by playing. It's an easy sport. It's something that some of them just do. They have natural talent. And I don't think that the NBA does enough to connect children through the process of getting an education instead of trying to get that house they want for their mama or that Lambo or that Range Rover or that $6 million watch. You see what I'm saying? It's all material things that drive this energy that could cause somebody some harm. But the moment they lose their lives, oh, black community, they'll kill another one of us. What we gonna do? Stop committing crime. How about that?
Wheeze.
Yeah.
Why could be
What we
wheeze?
don't do.
Weeds, yeah, that's right.
Why don't
Oh,
we
Lordy,
take into
oh, Lordy,
consideration-
Lord, what we's gonna do, right?
What we
Start to
gonna
get in
do
that
now?
type of conversation.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
You know,
No, you
it's got to stop, and we got to stop this whole thing. Not us as panelists on this show, but
Please.
we as African Americans have to start saying no to African Americans that are doing dumb shit. SHIT. Yes, I said.
Yes, you did.
Loudly.
But see, right. But see, what happens is that some people can't suspend reality from fiction. And so, for example, what you get is that blurred type of vision. Like, for example, who will be more influential? The ghost on Power that you see on cable, on Stars, or somebody in real life down the street who's a real life ghost, who is selling drugs. So not from the standpoint of the character that has a nightclub, but someone who's a gangster in that type of image. So you see somebody that's no more than 2 feet away from you. There's someone on television that you can't touch. You go out and have that conversation with that real person. And what you said earlier, Buck, about Mr. Hardwick, people can't separate. Okay, I watched Power Book 2. I like Michael Rainey Jr. as Tariq. I think it's a good show. He was receiving death threats for killing his non-real father on Twitter.
I know.
I mean, come on. I mean, it's sick. Now, don't be wrong. I give him credit. He must be a really good actor to evoke that out of people. But some people just do not understand or refuse to make the difference.
Well, that happens with villains in general. You talk to anybody who plays a famous villain on TV or in movies.
That's true.
People have a hard time separating. They treat them like they're a villain. They treat the actor like they're a villain. Listen, when I was doing mornings in Birmingham, I was the asshole on the show because nobody else would do that. Nobody else would take the role of being the villain on the show. So because they were worried about their image and worried about how much PUSSY they'd get, you know.
Thus comes the name Buck Wild.
Right. So I was the villain on the show. I mean, I was a host, but still, you know, somewhat of a villain. And when I would meet a woman, this is a true story. When I would meet a woman and we'd go out on a date or whatever, we'd go back to her place or my place and she'd treat me like crap. And I'm like, after a while, I mean, it took me a while to figure it out, but I was like, oh, after a while I'd be like, oh, you think you're going out with the guy on the radio. No, that's just a character I play.
Right.
I do that for the radio. The real me is totally opposite. I'm a nice guy. And they go, and they feel stupid for not having realized that, but they just didn't know.
Right.
And when I explained it to them, one time, hey, I used to send my tapes of my show to a friend of mine in L.A. She didn't live in L.A. She lived outside of L.A. And there's not a whole lot of, at the time, a lot of good black morning shows on there. So she started listening to my tapes every morning, right? So I became her morning show, which is great. And then all of a sudden, she started treating me like I was an asshole. She called me an asshole one day. She was treating me really foul. And I was like, did you just call me an asshole? She's like, because you are. I said, girl, have you been listening to my tapes for my show? She's like, yeah, all the time. I'm like, yeah, that's the show. You know I do that on purpose, right? You know that's a character I play. I'm a villain.
But that's a testimony to what
And she's one of my best friends, by the way.
And still she understood, and still she captured.
She got
the theater
once
of the
I
mind.
told
she got right once she
right
got it.
once I told her yes. Then she remembered. Oh yeah, this is the same guy that I've known for 20-something years, and he's a sweetheart.
But that goes to show you what you could pull off. You know, from a character standpoint, you're right. Characters who are villains, heavies, they get the attention because you relish that type of role because you get all the attention, and people think that that's who you are outside of the radio or TV.
Right. So that happens, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Case in point, I was looking at an interview back in the day. It was a studio called Inside the Actor Studio. It's come on A&E, and that was one of my favorite shows of all time. And he was talking to Lawrence Fishburne. So Lawrence Fishburne talked about when he was working on the set, what's love got to do with it, with Angela Bassett, playing Ike Turner.
Oh yeah.
So he talked about the rape scene. So when everybody got out the room in the scene and he raped her, unfortunately, in the studio there in the home, only people knew about it was him, Angela Bassett, the director, one other person, and that was it. Nobody else knew about that scene. So when they did the one-shot take of the scene, when he got finished doing that scene and they yelled cut, nobody on the set spoke to him. That's how deep he did that scene. That's how villainous he had become playing Ike Turner.
Wow.
That's
deep.
That's when he said, I knew I had the character because nobody spoke to him at all.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's deep.
That's
deep.
Absolutely.
And,
so you're absolutely correct from the standpoint of playing a role and playing the heavy. And then when that happens, people do see you as one-dimensional.
Yeah. And they forget that, they just, you're right. They have a hard time. It's like this. The lines are between reality and entertainment are blurred.
Yes.
And it's unfortunate. It really is unfortunate.
It really is. Just about Lipton, who was the host of the show, said was a weird dude, but got so much out of actors, puts them on a pedestal, then they get loose-lipped. Well, you know what happens when you're a host, man. Your job is to make the guest feel comfortable, and if he or she wants to, feel that comfortable to talk about things, you get more out of them.
Yeah, I saw an interview with a morning show, and they were talking recently, and they were talking about how a country morning show. They were talking about how they don't ask the same questions that everybody else asks. Like when you're an artist and you going, especially like you ever been in one of those situations where they say maybe at the Grammys and they've got a media room and the artists go from one table to the next, from radio station to radio station to radio station. And he said he said, how many times can an artist be asked, so what inspired you to do this song?
Same thing over and over again, right?
The same questions,
Yeah.
And it's like, and I remember doing interviews, and I'm like, I am not going to ask those same kind of questions. I'm going to get them in. I'm going to make them laugh first, talk a little ish, and get them comfortable. And then we're going to talk. We're going to have a normal, natural conversation, because what you find out is that artists and actors, they're real people. They're just normal people.
Yes.
Like Amari Hardwick is not Ghost. He doesn't talk like Ghost. The funny thing is seeing the guy who plays Tommy, Joseph Sikora, seeing him in an interview, and he doesn't have that New York accent at all.
No, he doesn't.
No, he sounds like a real white boy.
Yeah, he does. I like it. I just saw the series ending this past Sunday. Monday came on. I saw it on Monday with him. I like his show. Because you and I talked about that at one point.
It got better.
Like the show. It did get better. And like I said before, you talk about playing the role of a heavy. Traditionally, whether it's real life or fiction, the person who's the the strong arm for the gangster. His goal is to become the head man one day, always. But you're next to the man. So you learn, like case in point, let's go from that to American Gangster. So American Gangster, you had Bumpy Johnson, then you had Frank. Frank was his enforcer all those years and learned from him. And then when it was his time, he copied everything that he learned from Bumpy Johnson. So going back to what, and then Mike is back here. So what going back to say before about glorifying
Violence.
crime.
And crime.
I think nowadays we have so much to choose from a fiction standpoint, so it won't be crime all the time. So once upon a time ago, as you said before, like back in the day with we call what is 70s blaxploitation films, it was all about crime and pimping and things like that of that nature. But said we moved to a whole new pimping all the time. Pimping, not
Great
pimping, pimping.
Goldie.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I hope to say that we moved on from that to other streams where we can see positive image of our people. I said before and I say it again. We need to control our own images. Don't let anybody else do it. Because they do get it all wrong or do what works for them to get the check. Whatever is going to be negative, or like, okay, once again, Hollywood Shuffle is a perfect example of that. When you look at Hollywood Shuffle with Robert Townsend's first movie, and he's auditioning for the pimp, and he's going back and forth, the guy's like, okay, could you stick your ass out a little bit more and things of that nature, when you're doing your, I loved this dude and the whole thing. That happens.
It was a great movie.
It was a great movie, but it was a great insight to, if you didn't know anything about that, it was great insight to what actors like himself others had to go through. Eddie Murphy type. If you wasn't Eddie Murphy type, you wasn't going to get hired. And if you didn't fall into the stereotype of negativism, of hoes and pimps and everything else, you didn't get a job.
But see, one of the things that most people don't quite understand about Hollywood is that what makes a good story is obviously the hero is defined by the villain, right? We know that part, right? Mm-hmm. But every story needs a source of tension, and stories about crime, there is built-in tension because you have criminals, and you have guns, you have things that are illegal. The stories almost write themselves. It's a lot easier to create the tension when you have crime involved, when you have guns involved, when you have gangster movies, even James Bond and the Jason Bournes. There's always some sort of violence involved. Mm-hmm. And that writes stories because people, they don't necessarily like to see violence like that, or they do in America especially, but it's because of the tension involved. And it's easier for the writers to write stories that have tension to draw people in. It's storytelling.
I agree. But the thing of it is we can't be suckers. And that's the part that really, really burns me at someone not taking the time to understand that that's acting. It's a characterization. Right.
It's easy to get sucked in, though, if you're not aware of what's going on. And if you're young, the problem is, of course, children. If you're a child and you're watching this sort of thing, especially on a TV show like what's the name of that show with Zendaya in it? Euphoria, where they're showing all kinds of drug use and sex and naked. Not that nakedness is bad, sex is bad, but there's a lot that parents should be aware that their kids are watching this. But if the kids are going to be watching it, the parents need to be right there watching it with them to explain to them this.
But it's funny you said that. I'm sorry to interrupt. They're right there with them, glorifying it instead of making sure that they don't believe they need to do that. If your parents see that, let's say you're 8, 9, 10 years old, and they know your parents enjoy Power, a Power book or whatever it's called, and then they get a chance to watch it, what's going to happen? They're going to become a fan, just like the parent.
I don't know. I'm not a parent, so it's kind of hard for me to know what's right and wrong. Because I'm trying to think. If I were a parent how young would my kids have to be before I say, okay, it's all right for us to watch Power together? Because
well, let me say this. Let me say this.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. One of the things that it's not about even sharing a time to look at Power together. If you go back to, like I'm keep going back to the 60s, 70s, and 80s, there were things that our parents that there was no line. See, you didn't cross that line. First of all, if you don't approve of it, then you don't watch it. They don't see you watching it. Maybe you go in the bathroom and watch it. Maybe you go over a friend's house and watch it. But our parents never shared any parental decisions with their children. By the time they brought it to the children, the decision was made.
Not in my house.
Well, once again, I can't speak for you. But in the neighborhood I grew up, we knew the parents from the children. And that was with every damn household.
No, I'm just saying my parents would discuss stuff with us. You know, I mean, they'd explain it, but they'd get our opinion too.
Yeah, well, mine did. And a lot of them, the parents didn't, because they didn't. Half the time you bringing something to them, they didn't even know what it was. And if they knew, they would just straight barefaced lie to you. I don't know what that is. Don't ask me about that. That's what they do. They just shut it down. You know, back in the day, that's where we got the big table and the small table. You know, the parents would be at the big table.
I hated the small table. I hated the little table.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep,
now, let me paint a picture for you. So you come inside, and I think I've talked about this on this show before. You come inside, and the parents are talking, and everybody gets quiet immediately. All the parents. They ain't got to tap each other on the shoulder, bump knees, or do anything. Every parent in there stops talking. Fast forward 20, 30 years. Fast forward 20, 30 years. Oh, girl, I don't even know why you messing with him. You know his daddy ain't shit. What?
Well, when I was coming up, the parents would be playing cards. Parents and other relatives are over. They have this big card game, and they're in the kitchen playing cards. And I'd slide on up to the table and be listening. My ears wide open. It's like, woo, I'm listening. I'm hearing everything. And then look down, and he see me. But boy, get on out of here, right? Because I'm not supposed to be hearing all these conversations. So I'll go and I slide right back out over there because I want to hear. That's where all the interesting conversations were happening. Where the grown folks were.
Because my mama would have put your ass out the room. Okay, your parents must have been throwing a couple back or something and was having a real good time.
Yeah, they were all drinking. Of course, they were drinking. They were drinking and playing cards, of course.
No. When you came in the house, everybody like a choir. Everybody would stop. What do you want? No, I just want to get some water. Well, get the water. Get out of here.
Old nappy-headed boy.
They may not even talk about your bed. They would just stop the conversation. They weren't going to do that, and they didn't do that. They symbolize when you went to reunions, when you went to someone else's house, maybe for a party, whatever. There was a table for children. Right. It was known.
Yeah. But don't.
And that's where I'm sorry, go ahead. That's where we're missing the point. That's all I was going to say.
No, I was just gonna say what really pisses me off about certain parents. Once again, you can raise your child anytime, any way you want to. I don't like this. Parents try to be friends with their children. That's negative. That's negative. Don't get me wrong. When you get older, you have a more bond depending on your parents. You feel closer to them and everything else. But no, I'm not trying to be your friend. I'm your parent. I love you more, but we're not friends right now. And
my ex used to tell her son, she's like, we'll be friends when you're 30.
Exactly. She was stone cold correct. But there's certain people out there I've seen, try to be friends that go out with their children into the club, whatever like that. You're not. That's negative. That's not where I come from. No, you stayed in the child's place. You go. You speak when you're spoken to.
Say that one more time.
You stayed in a child's place.
Boy,
Now, if you look, like between my mom and me, my dad was disciplinarian. And anytime my dad spoke, I would urinate myself. That's
Of
all I
course.
needed. He didn't have to touch me, because
That's why your voice so deep.
Hey man, I got it from him, Doc. So back in the day when I'm sounding like a cross between Pee Wee Herman and James Earl Jones. He was already the voice of God to me. So he would let me know, you gotta do this. Look, I don't know my own name until noon. This is how much this man affected me. My dad smoked. He smoked Vantage Blue 100s, and so this is the chore I had. I had to go every day, and I wasn't Chris all the time. I was sometimes boy. I thought slavery was outlaw, but I didn't know. So
You
hey,
couldn't
boy,
even put the two together. You didn't know
Nope.
know where they was coming from.
Right? No, I saw roots, but that didn't do any damn good. So he's like, "Hey, boy, why don't you go down the street and give me some Vantage Blue 100s? Don't have Vantage Blue 100s? Get regular Vantage. Don't have Vantage? Get Winston 100s. Don't have
You
Winston
better not forget.
100s? Oh no, this is like a loaf of bread containing milk, stick of butter from Sesame Street type shit. So I had to remember all this. 100s of Winston don't have that. Regular Winstons. They don't have Winstons. Get Kents. I'm like, damn, Dad, in my head, Kents. That's back in the 70s. We're in the 80s now.
Did you have to write? Did he write you a note to give to the?
No, they knew him.
No.
No, they didn't know him. They
knew
already
him.
knew him.
Okay,
So I
yeah,
walked in.
I didn't
Okay, there you go. I didn't have no note, no nothing.
Yeah, now bring that home for you. When I
Sure.
was about 14 years old, I had a friend of mine, his parents owned a funeral home. So what happened was my grandfather used to go to this tavern behind the funeral home to drink. So of course he wasn't going to take me to the tavern. So he would let me go to Edward, whose dad owned the funeral home, and I'd get with Edward and we'd play until he got back. Okay. Now, all of a sudden, Edward, now they're a pretty prominent family in our city, and he was taking piano lessons and tennis and different things like that. So they pull him away, and he's got to go do some stuff. And I'm left there. The next thing you know, I'm kind of working. I'm kind of hanging around the funeral home, waiting on Edward to come. One of the first things they had me doing, I was a cigarette runner, and there was a little store that was across the street called Hi-Lo's. And so what I would do is there was Miss Hudson there. She smoked. Just about all the executives in there smoked cigarettes. The owner, Mr. Officer, he smoked. Miss Hudson smoked. Mr. Nelson, he was one of the managers. They smoked. And so they busy doing their stuff. And I became the runner. And at that time, like I said, I want to say this is early 70s. This is like 73, 72, something like that. And you didn't have to have permission. They sold cigarettes to anybody.
Oh, wow.
They sold cigarettes to anybody. And it still had the Surgeon's General label on the side about it being dangerous to smoke. But yeah, the owners knew that parents would send their kids to get cigarettes. They weren't even worried that the kid
Kids
was,
gonna be smoking it, right.
was smoking. They weren't even worried about it. And
Well,
that's
absolutely.
that's kind of where it was at. So, that's my whole point, because I don't know when you want to wrap,
No, you're
Chris.
good.
But my thing is, we got to change this perspective. We got to get back. And I'm not saying that we need to draw a line in the sand away from our children, but we have to be very, very careful at what they absorb and make sure that what we want them to absorb is priority. Not a hip hop artist, not an influencer, not somebody that they see carelessly on Facebook, but your parent. Your parent is the influencer. And we're not doing a good job. And I'm going to jump in and say we, because I'm a parent. Now, my children, my youngest son is 34 and my oldest son is 39. And I mean, once again, I don't tell them what to do. I feel slighted from time to time, when I'm trying to have conversations and they, kind of blow me off indirectly, but it's okay. Because
They're like,
gonna
"Oh, Dad, you don't know what you're talking about."
Right,
Is that what
right.
they say?
They ready to post up the argument, and I duck and dodge it. We're not going there. I said what I got to say. That's what I always say. I say what I got to say. You're not going to sway me. Especially my younger son. I think you met him. And
He's
like I
cool.
said, he's very cool. I mean, very knowledgeable of things that are going on around him. I'm proud of all my children. But once again, they were being prepared to try to shut me down, and I dodged the bullet every time. You want to hear a secret? There were some things that they made some real good sense about. But just the mere fact that I have to stay in adult mode, I can't let them in on the secret because they don't know how to handle it. It's like giving them sweets and they won't stop. If you keep breaking down and go, you know what's you're right. Yeah, you daddy wrong. Oh, hell no. Don't do that.
You got to keep up the image, huh?
You got to keep the image up.
That's funny.
You got to keep that image up.
That is really funny, Mike. I never would have thought to hear you say that.
Oh, you got to keep the image up because, like I said, they're right more than they're wrong. But once again, they're not speaking from experience. See,
what are they speaking from?
What they heard, what they thought they know. I had a lady in the car with me. Some people know that, when I'm trying to get my liquor money, I do Uber and Lyft and all that other stuff. And so one of the things, and seriously, I think driving Uber and Lyft is a blessing from God, to be honest with you, because for some reason, people get in this car and identify with me and start telling me stuff I don't even ask them for.
I could see that.
And a lady got in the car the other day. It was an 18-year-old girl. She got in the car and she asked me for a tissue, and I gave her the tissue. And then the next thing I know, she was asking me about a relationship that she was in. She's 18, white. Uh-huh. And so we started talking about it, and I said, well, let me make something clear. I'm a certified life coach, so understand that I don't have a problem discussing with you what you're asking me, but at the same time, I'm not a therapist, and I'm not a psychiatrist. So I'm not going to give you anything that what I would consider as advice to you, but I don't have a problem listening. And the thing of it is, some of the things that she talked about was the fact that she didn't have a high school education. She was in love with this boy. This boy's trying to convince her that she needs to really take control of her life. She's just now taking the test for the GED.
How old was she again?
18. Wow. And I said, well, how did you get in this situation? And she said that she had 3 siblings that were younger than her, and that her parents, got on some hard times, and they took her out of school and made her stay home and take care of the kids while they went to work.
Wow. Let's welcome in our brother and broadcasting professor, Reggie Miles. What's up, Reggie?
Am I here?
Yes, you are. Yeah. What's up, brother?
Am I here? Oh.
Yes, you are.
Hey, what's going on, Mike? What's going on, Buck?
Hey.
And the baby, what's going on?
Hey, I can't.
We just sitting here talking about parental guidance, and we know, a situation that you're in, and I don't think you have a problem with me just kind of talking about this briefly, and if so, you can kick my ass later.
Yes,
and we all still praying for the passing of your wife, and you're left with a 14-year-old daughter to raise. 15-year-old daughter. Yeah, you got to get that straight with kids. They don't let you. I'm 15. Okay. And that's, boy, you in the thick of it. And we were just talking about you have to remain the parent at all times. And tell us a little bit about how that you got to look forward to that, because once again, it's just you and her now. And you got to be the parent.
The dynamic is first of all, for me with her, the dynamic is that we reconciled, and Base, you probably can witness with this too.
Yes, sir.
We got to go through the grief together. The only thing that's really important to me right now is how she feels. That's the only thing. And I have to be careful and not trying to spoil her. I still have to set the boundaries.
That's what I'm talking about. Preach, Professor, preach. Come on with it.
I have to set the boundaries. But while I'm trying to set these boundaries, the thing that's really fascinating with me is, right, I can see her mother, and then I got to deal with me at the same time.
Yeah,
and then that combination is her own thing. You understand? Because because the only thing that I could definitively pinpoint is me coming out of her. You understand?
Yeah,
I can pinpoint that, and then I can speculate about my wife, because I wasn't, I mean, I was with her a certain time, but all the things when she was real young, I didn't see that. But I know about how I was when I was 15. And
Right.
I'm like watching like a hawk. I'm watching for this Reggie part of her to come out, so I can then reach, with love and open arms.
Amen.
And then say, hey, baby, or hey, Morgan, this is how we got to look at this.
Yes.
I'm not trying to be the one that, I don't want to be overprotective, but I'm being protective. She went out, and when she went out, she didn't call me. So for a minute, I was like, before I was going, I said, well, sweetheart, I'm waiting to hear from you so I can go to church to do what I got to do. Now, all I wanted to know was that you were safe.
You were okay?
All I wanted to know. And so she said, I'm safe. But that was cool. And so the very next day, Dad, such and such and such and such.
All right.
Lesson learned. Whatever. Just keep me in the loop. Dad, I want to do such and such and such. Well, I gotta do such and such and such and such. We negotiating on how we can get to what she wants to do on her Saturday. We're negotiating this. So I'm gonna end up bending my schedule, to accommodate her. Do I care? Man, I'm glad to do it.
You're glad to do it. That's your daughter. You have to protect her with all that you have.
Some cats don't have this, and so I got this. I got this, and I have to deal with this, and I'm cool. Nothing is more important to me than that 15-year-old young person, that young me, and that young Felicia, shaping and becoming who she is. Okay, the things that she's looking at and the things that she's monitoring, I'm checking it out. And then the first thing, I'm going to ask her some questions. Then, okay, well, what's this for and whatever. And then I understand the openness of her generation.
Right.
But then I want to put on the other side of the scale a little taste, little nuggets of what it is to be militant. Not in a negative way, but knowing who you are. That's when I say militant.
Oh, knowing who you are.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's how I'm defining militancy. And so just knowing who you are. Everybody that says they're all about is not really true. And
that's correct.
I know there are going to be hard knock lessons and stuff like that. And I want to go around there and have all these pillars so when she fall, I can. But sometimes I know some falls are gonna have to be painful. But then I want to be able to pull her through with a different type of wisdom. Get up. I always tell her, you're special. You're very special. You understand? Because your dad was this, that, and other. You're a special child. And you do have a destiny, but this is what you got to do to be where you want to be. You got to read. You got to do your math. You got to do your homework early. Nothing beats failure but a try. You understand? When you're dealing with teachers, if you don't understand, just make sure you sit in the front row, talk, you listen, take your notes, and then go ask the teacher questions. Just ask questions, because once you ask the teacher questions, then they're compelled to, they have to help you. And you got to remember, it's your attitude that controls your altitude. You can go as high as your attitude takes you. If you get anchored with some kind of BS and it keeps you from communicating in a positive way, you ain't going to do nothing but have trouble. So I always tell a bit, when you start thinking about something, baby, you're going to hit two sides. You got to watch that one with the horns and not let him ride. Get him off. Because see, when you're going through a lot, sweetheart, when you're going through a lot, baby, it's because you've been destined. And you got to get tried. Nobody is going to live on this planet and not be
without being tried.
Nobody. And then when you're really doing something, and if you're living a life and you're not going through nothing, man,
you ain't living.
Yeah.
You ain't living.
Right. And then the question becomes, who's making this way for you to be having it, trouble free? So just, woo. So you got to be careful. You gotta be careful. So those are the kind of life lessons and the balancing act that I'm trying to share with her. And here's the caveat, right? Her brother, my oldest son, right? He's in his 40s, right? He's in his 40s, and so he gets on the phone. He said, "Hey man, you ain't called me in 2 weeks. We ain't talked." I was, oh man. I said, okay. And so we deal with that, and now we have 3 ways, because that's just her and her stepbrother. That's the only thing we got.
That's it.
We all we got. And so just to put it like that, but I'm not putting no pressure on the kid. The main thing I want to do is listen to her. That's
absolutely.
I want to listen to her. I got my thing, but I want to listen to her. Well, why didn't you do this? How come this grade was like this? What's on your mind? And then that's what I'm going after. That's what I'm going
But it's funny you said that. Let me just jump in for a second, because you're talking about gaining trust. And that's one of the things that, Professor, we were talking about before you jumped in. We're just talking about, how do we get in this situation where our young folks believe that crime pays, and they trust all the wrong people, and they're making all the wrong mistakes. And, the entire race is suffering from it because we can't seem to grow out of it, because we got the intensity living inside of it, and we all have to deal with it. And we're talking about police brutality. And why is this police brutality happening? Because somebody's not talking to an 8-year-old kid about where you're at. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Where are you in a position that you need to, at 8 years old, to steal a bag of potato chips? What's going on? Mm-hmm. You can't tell me you're the only person living in the world. There's nobody you could go to that you couldn't have said, "Hey, I'd like to get a bag of potato chips." There's nobody at 8 years old that you figured, the only way I'm gonna get these potato chips, I'm gonna have to take them. That sounds like some grown man shit to me. But the thing of it is, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
The thing of it is, and see, when you brought it back around, when you start talking about failing, one of the things, and we know this from a biblical side, failure is not failing. Failure is learning. And that's what we have to teach. That's why you're keeping an open board for your daughter, so she can come and talk to you. Don't worry about failing.
Oh, yeah.
You see what I'm saying? The thing of it is, if you fail at something, if you go back, you've learned something. Guaranteed. There was something in there you learned. And it's just like you said, if you don't understand what the teacher's talking about, then move a little bit closer. Ask a couple of questions. Because you are never, because like you said, the adversary is always going to be interfering and trying to keep us on sinking sand. But there's a Father in heaven that's got a blessing on us every day. Sometimes we don't take advantage of it.
If we think about any situation that in our lives where we went through, and the minute that, and I'm gonna just say this for me, the minute that I want to stand up on, oh man, I'm right, I'm doing this, that's the enemy.
That's the enemy. That's the adversary.
Yeah, that's the enemy, because we're supposed to be able to communicate and compromise. We're supposed to be able to, come halfway. It's about peace and working together. But I can't work together if I'm going to stay on my side of the fence and not try to come to the middle and try to talk it out. Okay, maybe I might have to give up a couple of things, but if it's to bring peace, then that sacrifice will be worth it. It'll be worth it. So I think that it's just it's a great absence of love in our community.
I said that.
Come on. It's a lot of love that's just missing. And how did we stop it? So I think when the me generation got too me-ish, I guess, because before that time, we got to think about this here. Let's look at it. People in our community, we survived the Great Depression. You mean to tell me when there's abundance, and more opportunity, that we can't survive, but yet we survived when there was soup lines and we got through that. But today, when there's a bunch of everything, we can't come together and do nothing. It's something wrong with that picture. It's a song that I play, when I go back to playing gospel, but I played this song every day, and it's by, Reverend Clay Evans and the Fellowship Missionary Baptist Choir. It says, it's a plea to have the Lord fix me, straighten me out, get me right first. Because if I'm not right within me first, how am I going to be able to do something anywhere else?
Come on, man. Stop that. Stop.
You can't expect to change anything unless you're putting a change on yourself first. Yeah. You can't do it. You cannot do anything. Nothing. So the song says, fix me, Jesus, fix me. So that's my first prayer, that I want to make sure that I'm right about that whatever I'm going through, I want to make sure I'm right, even when I'm talking to Morgan or whatever. And then if it's something where I don't want to be too right all the time, because I need to give her that cushion so she can grow into whatever she wants to be. I think the relationship that I have with my oldest son, I mean, this guy, and Buck, he's a rapper too, but he brings a different dynamic that's closer because of his kids. He's understanding this younger generation a whole lot better. But here's the thing, that's what's really beautiful. He remembers his daddy when he was a young man. And then he helps me to navigate this stuff, because, when you get a certain age, but you done got set in your ways, and he helps me to navigate, to keep my mind open. To always, because see, when we get to a certain area within ourselves, as we mature as an individual, our focus gets narrow. And sometimes that's good, and sometimes that's not so good. A lot of times we forget that the same mistakes that we hollering about, we made them ourselves. You know, and sometimes we don't want to see our kids make the same mistakes, but we don't know how to articulate it to help them. You know, it's no, you got to do it. It's no more time for that. It's no more time for that. If we're going to try to save our young and have them have a greater understanding. See, it's one thing I'm seeing that we don't think about a lot is legacy and traditions. Where is that? Where is that? Every 5 minutes we're changing, or maybe every 3 minutes we're changing into some new paradigm or some new this or some new that, and it's that we're being led by our culture that has no vision of the past. I always say this analogy. See, because we are in this seeing is believing generation, right? We're in this seeing is everything. What we see is cool. But I want to say this. The top part of the tree, the beauty of the tree with the branches and the leaves and all that stuff, the way it's spread out and the way it looks so good and the strength of it doesn't come from what's above the ground. It comes from what's below the ground. That's what you can't see.
The roots. Yes.
And so, and I ain't talking about the movie that we see every, during Black History Month,
Right.
but I'm talking about the roots of, within the culture that we know. So what are they? We keep ourselves from dealing with the strength of who we are. See, because our people, and I want to cuss. I really, well, here we go.
That's all right. I'll cuss for you.
Okay.
Me too.
I won't.
Our people, we love BS. We thrive on BS.
Bullshit.
Yeah, we thriving on that. If somebody brings a truth to some of our people, man, they're looking way. It's like I used to tell this joke all the time. It's 4 things that our people are not going to do. 4 things. We're not reading.
I was just gonna say that. Read a book.
We're not writing. And we're not voting. And if it's too much like right, we damn sure ain't gonna do that.
Right.
And we will tell you that.
Yeah.
We will tell you that, man. That's too much like right, man. Shoot, I ain't doing that. How many people that you know of that when you presented a situation to them and you say, and the person looked at you, man, that's too much like right. I can't do that. It seemed like we got to have something bent all the time when we trying to do something. But there's a great absence of love, within our community. And that first love, that first absence is, first of all, the relationship between with our women. We do a lot of things with them, but do we really love them? That's one of the questions. And then that goes vice versa with them. Do they really love us? And until we
said that.
Huh?
Because
I said, I'm glad you said that.
Oh yeah.
We make it hard to love us sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, listen. You can't know one side without knowing the other. If you got a quarter in your pocket and you look at the head side, you didn't know that was the head side unless you knew what the tails were. You can't know one thing without the other. So we have to have better communications with the sisters, and the sisters have to have better communications with us. But go back to slavery times, right? Oh, there you go with that slavery stuff. Okay, we couldn't provide, we lost a lot in the relationships with our women just based on when a sister wanted a new sweater on the plantation. I couldn't afford to give her one, but master could give her a hand-me-down. So over time, as this gets amplified, who do you think, or what ways do you think that she'll gravitate to? Master's way. Come on now. So this stuff really, we really have to gain control over who we are, and then start protecting and taking care of our women. I mean, do we really take care of our women?
Let me say this, Professor. I think you make an excellent point. Where I'm tarrying with just what you just said in reference to it goes both ways. We tend not to have a true understanding of what a relationship is supposed to be.
Come on.
You see what I'm saying?
Come on.
And that's why both parties are at fault, because we're both ignoring what a relationship is supposed to be. Now, as an adolescent, we're very curious as men. I can only speak for men, and there's things that we want to do and what arouses our feelings and how we feel about, certain situations, but you grow out of that. And you start to learn and understand the real purpose of this God-given gift that we can't even replicate as a man. No man in our world can deliver a child. Only a woman can do that. The woman cannot conceive a child without the man's seed. So both sides have to understand, Professor, what the contribution is to make this relationship successful. But we tend to go our opposite ways when we can't have our.
That I agree 100%. But that was taught to us. We were presented with that. 400 years of chattel slavery. Chattel. It's only been probably less than 100 years, maybe a little bit more, that we really had the knowledge, the strength, and the wherewithal to choose who we wanted to be with. Before that time, we were bred like animals.
Dred Scott case. The owner said he's chattel. If you don't know what that is, Google it.
I was say, what's the difference between cattle and chattel? What's the chattel?
Google. That's a great question.
Yeah, we're on live right now, so maybe that's not necessarily the time for me to do it. If you know what it is, you can.
That's a good question, but Mike's response is cool too. Both of them is cool, All I know is that, and this might not be the definition, but all I know that under chattel slavery, that people were mated.
Okay, I'm gonna look it up.
They were mated, to produce a certain offspring.
Right. And that mating was controlled from the fact that we were property.
Property,
So
right.
I think when you get to your Google search, you're gonna see the word property.
Yeah. An item of property other than real estate.
Yeah, there you go. See?
Yeah. So but they were doing this with human beings.
You could have just told me, Mike.
I know, but
And
the thing of it is we're here to educate. And so this wasn't for you. It was for somebody listening and saying, that's a good question. What is the difference between
What's a
chattel and cattle?
chattel? What's a chattel?
Yeah, right.
man,
So you did what I wanted you to do, was to define it for the audience so they know.
so both the men and the women never knew how to choose or to be with each other, because in the event that there was ever love shown between certain men and a certain female, what happened to them on the plantation? They got shipped out.
Sold.
Yeah, they
got
were separated.
sold.
Yeah, they were
got
separated.
sold.
And so inherently, some men, after a little while, after being with a woman, they gotta leave. We don't know how to talk with them. We don't know how to, deal with certain family situations. When we get too much pressure put on us, we run. Then we feel like, because some of us, we felt like we were, we had certain prowess. We had to have multiple, you understand? And
multiple vaginas.
yeah, we had to have relations with multiple women. And you were right. And you're right, Buck, because it wasn't with the woman. It was
listen, I still got friends who have literally 5 different side pieces and are married. The one for each night of the week.
Yeah.
Still in their 50s.
And so when we go through stuff like this, and then we expect that to not to have an effect on our people or on our culture, we're being delusional.
Yeah.
And I've said it before. If we're gonna fix something, we need to fix. Brothers be lying to the brothers, lying to the sisters. Sisters be lying to the brothers.
And brothers be lying to brothers.
Yeah. And because sometimes they don't want us, they want us for other things, and sometimes they want us for that thing, and then don't want us. It's just a thing, and we have to get that. We have to get that together. And I'm not saying that other cultures are better than us. I'm not saying that. As a matter of fact, I don't care about any other culture. But let's find out what the problems were or are with us and fix that. Well, I don't care what the Koreans are doing. I don't care what the Russians are doing. I don't care. And so we need to know the success stories of other nationalities. We need to do research. And so we can then make better decisions. What did they do in the Congo? What did they do in Kenya? What did they do in South Africa? What happens? And we have to take all these little bits and pieces and try to come up with a better way to keep the nucleus of our family structures together. And we can't just say, well, yeah, you got to be single parents are cool and you don't have to be married. We have to, sometimes I'm a single parent now. Sometimes those things happen. Okay, but what do we do and what do we put in place to bolster both the single families, single parents, and the regular hetero? What are we doing to protect the family? I think what the family becomes the bigger focus. I think it's too much individual stuff that's going on, too much individualism. And so if everybody is individuals and not learning how to do anything collectively, we'll never get out this hole that we're in.
Well, it's funny listening to everybody speak and talk about relationships between a man and a woman. And for me personally, I learned firsthand from my mother and father about how to love in a relationship. My father taught me how to be a man, and I didn't even know it coming up until I got older. And when you're blessed to have a father figure, I'm not being anti-woman, a single mother. I'm talking about a father figure who is actually your father, someone who is a father figure. It does help because they love you tremendously. They're the best interest at heart. So for me, watching my dad over the years, it was beautiful. Looking back in hindsight, I got another education watching him and being around him. The way he would say, open that door for your mother and your sister. When you're out of date with a woman, make sure you walk on the side of the street so God forbid happens, you could protect her. And things of that nature. And so
Take that hat
learned
off in the house.
Always. That look, you could go up, look, you see the Three Stooges go up somebody's head, you get in the back of your head, bringing in a hat on your head inside of somebody's house.
Yeah.
You get it immediately. And so watching my mother and father over the years, that was the template for me. When I went out and started to date and settle down with my wife, Vicky, over time, and seeing the strength of my father, I'll share this story as I'm talking. So I come home, I went to college here in the city, went to Columbia College, Chicago. So I go home, and my mom's like, go talk to your father. He's down the street at the, bar. He's upset. Go talk to him. I said, okay. I was about 21 at the time, 21. So I go to the bar, I see him. I settle up next to him. Dad, what's up? All right, give my son a drink. I said, all right, so what's up? So he told me he was diagnosed with diabetes. I said, oh, okay. All right. That was the first time I really had a conversation man to man with my father. That was the first time it was not father and son, it was man to man. And we're having drinks, and we're at the bar. And he says to me, you know what? I gotta go. I gotta die before your mother. I said, nah, come on, Dad. You had about a few beers and mixed drinks. You probably talk all that ish. Why are you saying that? He said to me when I've been blinking an eye, because your mother is stronger than me.
Wow.
Never forgot that.
Wow.
And my dad was like the manliest man I ever encountered in my life. But the fact that he admitted that made him, in my eyes, much stronger. Much stronger.
Yeah.
Because, see, as you said before, Professor, we're not taught to connect with ourselves. How can I love you if I don't love myself first? How do I put my arms around you if I don't put my arms around myself first? Scars and all. We cannot rewrite our own history.
Right.
We have to embrace ourselves of who we are and what we are. So to hear that shook me to my core, and it made me cry. But he was right, and he walked his own truth. And lo and behold, he passed away before my mother did. Before my, put it like this, I'll just share this too. My mother is the strongest woman I know because 2 weeks prior, my grandmother died, which was her mother. So my mother lost her mother and her husband in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And so to hear the fact that strength is guided by God, strength is calling upon the Almighty to help you out when you need that. And thank God my mom is still with me and still with us in the family. Right. But that could have taken out her or anything, because just the stress of that alone, losing your mother and your husband in 2 weeks. So between my mom and my dad, two of the strongest people I ever encountered, love is based upon strength and love and a foundation that the two people create before family happens. Because it's just the both of them. And you learn from that if you allow yourself to. Never get to a point you know everything. Like Reggie just said earlier, some people get set in their ways. Damn that. Open your mind to new ideas. You just might learn some more. Nothing wrong with learning more. You know what you know, but think about if you knew a little bit more than what you have. It can only make you stronger. It can only make you wiser. And let me say this about Reggie real quick. I've known Reggie since 1998. We worked together at Kennedy King College, WKKC Radio, for the college students. And I remember one time, I never told you this, Reggie. I remember one time I was speaking about me, Mr. Bass, Mr. Miles swears a lot. Every time you talk about radio, he's always swearing. I said, yes, he swears, damn it.
As you swear to in agreement.
Right. But don't mistake that for not being passionate. Mr. Miles is very passionate about radio. He's one of the most passionate guys I know. So when you get past the dammits and the MS and everything else, the Mother Hubbards, listen to the message. And you get it. I've seen Reggie grow as a man. He went back and got his master's. Had wrote dissertations about radio and radio station, how they function. Became a professor at Howard University. Came back here to Chicago State University. I've seen this man do it. And to Morgan, 15 years old, the daughter of two wonderful parents, need not your heart be troubled. You are in great hands with your father.
Amen, Bass. I appreciate that.
That's right.
I appreciate that. Yeah, Bass saw me. Yeah, I was rough in the early days. I was a monster.
Yeah, he was.
I was a monster. And my experiences when I left Kennedy King, my experiences at Howard was like it was something else. It was really something else to have students that are now morning personalities, general managers, program directors, working in sales, and they'll all contact me and they'll reach out. With the passing of my wife, folks were reaching out, and it was so overwhelming that I had to put a post on social media that I wanted to thank all my colleagues, from the industry, that just came back and reached back. And it's not one student that can't tell me something that I told them that they didn't experience, that they haven't went through, that they have not seen in the industry. 'Cause I was like, man, I was strong on media ownership, man. I hated corporate radio. I hated corporate radio with a passion. If you was talking to me about imitating GCI or BMX, I would literally cuss you out, man.
Mm-hmm.
And I would really get it. But today, no, because now in the industry, I have to like retool. I've been doing some things that, on this online stuff, man, and I hated on. Well, I didn't hate it, but I wasn't believing in what its power was going to be until I started doing it myself. And now that I see it, man, listen, I drive my car and I don't even listen to radio anymore.
You're not the only one.
I'm in the car and I do not listen. Every now and then I'll tune into a news station, but not a music station. Because number one, they probably don't have any personalities that can relate to me
or can entertain you.
Yeah, well, I don't necessarily have to be entertained. I mean, because the music itself will entertain me, but I mean, there's nobody that I could relate to. It's nobody. I mean, I don't know anything about Young Jeezy or whoever the great artists are of today. I have no concept about that, and I'm not saying they're not good, but my time is over as far as that is concerned. And then the powers that be, the powers that be. Well, they don't want Motown on there because it's too old. They don't want the sound of Philly on there, but that's too old. But this is the amazing thing, right? They talk about they don't want any old records, but I have never seen every commercial that comes out now. They got a classic song selling this product.
A lot of them do, yeah.
Yes.
I'm trying to. What's up with that? Well, why can't you keep the music going? I would think that they might be even afraid of that music because some of our music might make some people think. I mean, that's just. I mean, it might make you think because let's take a 51-year-old song right now. Let's go to Marvin Gaye's "What's Going On." That song is 51 years old.
Wow.
And if you played it today and listen to the lyrics, you will hear nothing any different. What's Going On by Marvin Gaye. Picket
Very
line.
time sensitive.
Yeah, huh? Say that again.
That's a very time sensitive song when it was released.
Yeah, I mean, but 50 years ago, and the world hasn't changed. That entire album, What's Happening, Brother, Flying High in the Friendly Sky, Mercy, Mercy Me.
Woo!
You understand? You could go through, but yet we're in this situation where they don't want that old music to come out because it makes you think. It makes you think. You're thinking about some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They would rather for us to listen to music with the woman with the wonderful body, and
Talking about
she's
the church's
beautiful,
chicken spokes lady?
I guess, but she got a wonderful body, and I don't want to be trashing on somebody's name.
Are you talking about Megan Thee Stallion?
Either one, anyone. You can pick any one of them because all of them beautiful, right?
Saweetie.
And so, but they're not saying anything with any substance.
Hey, Reggie,
But
can I
yet-
jump in?
Go ahead. Yes, sir.
I want to make a slight correction because you're on a path that's amazing, and some people see it and they don't. Actually, the music that we're talking about from 50 years ago is the most popular music right now on the planet. When we're looking at the ratings right now, classic rock and adult R&B are the top performing radio stations across the country. So that music is being heard, it's being used in commercials. And the thing of it is, going back to our consolidators, they're being forced to deal with it because they're so revenue crazed about the young audience.
Yep.
Because the young audience has the advertising community fooled at this whole how many impressions you get as a digital or streaming station with the influencers, with people who can't stop watching TikTok for 30 or 40 minutes at a time. So we've got a conflict that's going on right now from actually what the audience is saying that they want versus what the agencies are saying that they want. And the reason why the agencies are confused is because most of them are under the age of 40. So who is their audience? Performers who are under 40.
And the problem comes when advertisers control the money controls the stations.
Oh, I mean, 100%. I agree with you. I'm on that boat. I'm with you because I've always taught that advertisers run radio.
Oh, absolutely.
But I do.
When I first got to
mean,
Dallas, a quote was from a salesperson there. That says, "We're in the business of playing commercials. We play music in between the commercials to get people to listen."
Absolutely.
But our business is commercials.
And that's actually
like,
true. Yeah.
Actually true, no doubt.
Yeah.
To hear it out loud, though, is kind of like, oh,
Yeah, it's
really?
shocking,
Well,
right?
I go along with the message of making people think, because, for example, when I was in college, at the radio station, college radio station, we were playing in real time when it first came out, KRS-One and PE, and it was Public Enemy, for example, listening to excerpts in their songs, say Malcolm X, made me want to pick up the autobiography, and I read it from cover to cover. That got me to thinking. Because
And
Malcolm
think about
X,
the photo
yeah, sure.
on KRS-One's album. He's standing at the glass. I mean, there's a
In that
picture
same
of Malcolm
pose.
X standing there by any means necessary.
Exactly. You see the
I
influence.
mean, that was mind blowing.
It was nice, but it made you think. And so
Absolutely.
it was one of those situations where you get the masses to think, to start to question. And when the questions start to overflow, what do you want after questions? You want answers. You know, certain people over the years, depending on who they were, I asked the question, hey, how comes A, B, and C? Oh, don't question me, boy. Well, either you don't want to tell me or you don't know. And and you have to call somebody else. And I was like, well, look, you might know, just don't want to say it, or for whatever reasons. And so that type of inquisitive agitation, you keep asking a question after that, question after that, people get tired. They don't want to hear anything from you. But just the simple, basic premise of making somebody think goes a long way. And I do believe that, because no offense to, I do feel once again like, old man on the lawn, get off my lawn, you kids sometimes. There's nothing out here that makes me think, and it's not for me. I understand that. But over the years, we've seen generational wise, when it comes to music, there was something that touched you. Something that was whether romantic or made you think or something along those lines, no matter what format it was, over the years, generation wise. But nowadays, it gets to a point where it makes you think, it can go into a negative spiral.
But you know what the thing is that society has gotten a lot more self-centered. And that's a reality of the times. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that we live in the microwave generation. The microwave kind of screwed it up. The microwave made everything instantaneous. And that kind of turned everybody into these instant gratification junkies, and everybody's just, all they're concerned about is themselves these days. It's sort of like, everybody's a 13-year-old, 13-year-olds, all they care about is themselves, teenagers in general. It's like nowadays,
discovering themselves in all
right,
kinds
exactly.
of ways, mentally and physically.
Right. But that's just teenagers in general, kids in general only care about themselves. And it seems like society has kind of gone in that direction. And maybe it's because there's so many of these sub 40-year-olds that are in charge and are directing the media, and they're into themselves. So, that's kind of the way they run things.
Yeah, that's what I just said a few minutes ago. You almost repeated it word for word, and thank you for that, because you're absolutely correct. And when one of the first things, a good friend of all of us, I think on this show knows Mitch Falk. And I remember the first time that I heard the drops for hip hop stations, when he says the parents have their station, now you have yours. Yeah. And that separation was created. Yeah. And here comes Urban's, and now you got I think it was just you just a few minutes ago, Professor, talking about the difference between what the kids are listening to and what the adults are listening to. Because when you just had a black station or an urban station, there was no differential in the program.
Right.
The kids listen to what the parents listen to, and the parents listen to what the kids listen to. And the FCC protected the license to make sure that there was no BS on it.
But hip hop is what came along and separated everything, because
that's
when
what
hip hop,
I just said.
Yeah.
But I'm saying when that happened, that did, I'm not sure if it was right for us to separate it. See, when we separated it, and created urban ACs versus urbans, then it was like you gave them a license to go batshit crazy on the urban side.
And we did.
And they're paying dearly for it now because these urban stations, 18 to 34 hip hop stations, can't maintain an audience because all their listeners are streaming. All their listeners have a device with a pair of headphones, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
Well, absolutely.
I'm driving a 20. I'm sorry.
Oh, you go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
I'm driving a 2020 Mitsubishi. The radio has no buttons. There's a little screen sitting in the middle of the dash. You can either plug your phone in or it'll Bluetooth it, and that's where you're controlling the radio. So anybody that has a phone in the car is actually controlling the radio, not your mama, not your dad.
Yep.
Well, you know, they've had those liners on various terrestrial stations like, this ain't your father's radio station, and now they go back to before about separation of an older generation and younger generation. As we all know, it's about the dollars because dollars make sense. Yeah. So, for example, let's go back to the 90s when Arsenio Hall did his thing on, doing late night talk radio, or talk television, and syndicated from Paramount. And the reason why he did so well, first of all, nothing like him ever before. An African-American host, it had tapped into the culture of urban people, whether it was music, television, movies. Nobody was doing that except for him. What he was getting dollar-wise was the Pepsi Colas, the Gap, the younger generation type of spots that was geared for his show. And he was separate among Johnny Carson and David Letterman. That wasn't his audience. His audience was something all new, altogether different. You did not see NWA or anybody, a person of color on late night television until Arsenio Hall came along and just gave that opportunity for everybody to come through. And not only that, for example, for me personally, that's my first heard of George Lopez. George came on and did the set. I never knew who George Lopez
Hispanic
was.
Comedian.
Look, him and this guy named Crazy Legs Fonseca. Crazy Legs Fonseca rolled up in a wheelchair before he said anything, and that was his name. And everybody fell out. It was kind of uncomfortable at first, and he was like, all right, I got that out the way. Let's go do some running. And once he broke the ice sitting in the wheelchair, everybody started to be more comfortable and laugh at his stuff. I never seen it before. So again, when you're out there on new ground and a new audience, you do what you do to separate from the older generation to make your start in what you're doing new generation wise. And no other business is no different. They just do it all the time. The word teenager really didn't kick into the 50s. Because all of a sudden, really, because you look back in time, it did exist, but it wasn't until the 50s when you had rock and roll and blue jeans and teenagers dressing differently from their conservative parents. And and then you had, you had that. You had American Bandstand. You had movies like with James Dean, Rebel Without a Cause, that was geared towards teenagers.
Oh my God.
So
he was straight batshit crazy.
That dude was way ahead of his time. Look, it did be talking about Nicolas Cage. Go back and watch some James Dean. Nicolas Cage got nothing on James Dean.
Man, he
nothing,
was,
right?
Boy, hey, the Crips and the Bloods didn't have nothing on what he was throwing down.
I am black.
Yeah.
I'm Arsenio Hall, and yes,
I am black. That's right.
You know what also changed the culture to me was Def Comedy Jam.
Absolutely.
When that came along, it was like, whoa. Nobody had seen anything like that up until then, It was like, this is something. This is really something to see.
Well, it was the expansion of television channels. I mean, think about being raised on NBC, ABC, CBS, and an independent.
But HBO had
wait a minute.
HBO had been around for a while though.
Wait a minute. Did you say all broadcasting Caucasians, nothing but Caucasians, and the Caucasian broadcasting system? Are you talking about those networks?
Yes, and that's all we had. Now we
just wanted to say that.
Yeah, I mean, that's all we had. So
Yeah,
think
I
about it
mean-
until cable actually released that process.
Right, but
And
you know
then
what? But it started early, much earlier than that, though. I mean, think about it. HBO home box office came out in the 70s. We didn't have it growing up, but it was out in the early to mid 70s. I mean, it took
Yeah, but
a
I'm
while.
talking about mass. Yeah, it took a while. I'm talking about mass distribution. You see what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
because the infrastructure when did the infrastructure for cable get really settled? I need to check.
Well, I mean, people in high school, when I was in high school, now, mind you, I was in high school in the 80s, but people had cable. You could get cable. Because my parents
Cable
refused
was
to get
out
it.
in the 80s. Yeah.
Yeah, my parents refused to get it because they're like, TV is supposed to be free. I ain't paying for no TV.
Right.
They're old school, you know.
They just
But I
got
mean, all
done
my
paying for
friends.
their World Book encyclopedias. Now here they come. with
Right,
the damn
right,
cable.
exactly. It's like, what? Paying for television? Television is free. And listen, and we're from the Bay Area, and we were in the Bay Area, and there's a lot of mountains in the Bay Area, so the TV stations didn't come in clear, right? And it wasn't until like the late 80s that they built this one big tower in San Francisco right on the edge of the city so it could reach all around the Bay, and then all the TV stations and some radio stations would get on this one thing. It was called Sutra Tower, and it's like a fork sticking up in the air. And but up until then, all the TV stations were staticky. You had to move the antenna around big time, or like I think at one time we had an antenna on the roof, and even then, some of the TV stations just wouldn't come in clear. And so cable made sense in an area like that. But at first, if I remember right, now I'm not necessarily old enough to remember all this, but if I remember right, at first when cable came out, it was just HBO. Am I right? I don't remember.
Yeah, you had HBO. MTV was popular.
Yeah.
During that time.
Well, you had here's what you had. You had 3 tiers of cable when it first came out. So you had basic cable. Then you had another channel that was an upgrade, and then you had premium. Now the HBO wasn't on the first tier when it first came out. Ironically, for African Americans, because of the MTV revolution, John, what's his name? I want to say John Coleman. I may have his name wrong, but the guy that was running cable when it first came out was friends with the owner of BET,
Bob Johnson.
and Bob Johnson, and he allowed BET to be on tier 1, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
Now there were a massive amounts of phone calls and letters that went to the FCC complaining about this black channel on the first tier.
I can see that.
But
you know,
at the same, go ahead.
in the Bay Area, we had one before that. It was called Soul Beat, and they would play videos all day long. And, I mean, it was on cable. It was on the first tier before BET came along, and it was ghetto.
Yeah, they had remember they had to have local channels, so it was on your local channel on the first tier. Every cable system, the first tier had.
No, but I'm saying it wasn't a broadcast channel. It was a cable only.
Okay.
Yeah, just like in New York they had what was the name of that? Oh man, you were
Ralph McDaniels.
Yeah, Ralph McDaniels. Yeah, what was it called? What was it called?
You made me forget. I almost said it.
Oh man. Anyway, but yeah, they had one in New York. And Oakland had one, and it was on throughout the Bay Area. So you had a lot of, and I know they had one in L.A. So it's kind of like, you know, you had a few of these popping up around the country, but they were local, and that was a good thing. Local was a good thing.
I want to thank Leslie Taylor for that last comment. Cause that's, I was trying to think about what was that cable company that the first one I got dealt with in Chicago that owned TV. When I thought,
wow.
And they had that little converter box where you could switch to one side to the other. I was one of those. I was one of those hardcore terrestrial persons until I think ESPN is what got me to go ahead on and
do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, since we're talking about TV, I want to bring up and see what you guys think about this whole Netflix situation, and sharing of passwords. I don't know. I assume everybody who's got Netflix.
Yeah,
Yeah, I haven't looked at it, but go ahead. I got it. I got that.
Okay.
yeah. I mean, I mean, how do you save your revenue? I mean, I think it's kind of common sense. You don't need to be. I get it. I can't say I haven't done it. But once again, hell, if I'm running it, I would be behind that 150%. No.
Okay, so if you're watching and you don't know about the whole Netflix situation, it's been all over the news past couple of days. But Netflix, their stock prices went down because they lost subscribers for the first time in their history. They'd always keep going up and up and up and up, and finally, for the first time, for whatever reason, they lost a bunch of subscribers. And to me, I think it's because they raised the prices again. They keep raising the prices. So anyway, they're in a pickle because Netflix, even though they're the top streaming service, they still don't make a profit. They still operate at a loss. They lose billions of dollars every year, but they maintain this number one status, and their stock price is still pretty high. So when they lose subscribers, they have to tell their stockholders something. It's like, because their stock prices went into the toilet, so they had to tell the stockholders something. So now, I'll wrap it up. Basically, they're saying now, if we have, let's say, maybe 100 million subscribers that are sharing their passwords, and so we're going to try to stop that, and then we'll get them all to pay, and then our stock will go back up. But that's not going to happen. If you didn't want to pay for Netflix, right, you're not going to pay for them now.
That's true.
What were you saying, Mike?
I was just going to say, it's one of the things. It's programming isn't or it's not original. You
Some
know
of
what
it
I'm
is.
saying? Some of it is. But when I say it's not original, I'm saying that not the programming itself, but how you get it. You see what I'm saying? I mean, you still get, I mean, everything plus is out here. AMC Plus, Sundance, BET
Disney
Plus.
Disney Plus.
Disney Plus, right.
Disney Plus. As a matter of fact, speaking of the pluses, CNN Plus went down today. It's over.
Yeah, because they didn't have anything compelling on there. I saw that. I was like, please.
Yeah. So that's those are the things that you're dealing with that is bringing them down, because I like Sundance. Now, all they show is Criminal Minds, Law and Order, all the crime shows. If you just want to sit around and watch crime shows, oh my God. They are
old people love
show
those.
your ass to death.
Old people love those.
A lot of young people love. No, let me tell you something. They got.
What about older relatives love those?
No, let me tell you something. You got it all wrong, bro. You know what? Have you?
No, I was just talking about. I was just talking about my older relatives. That's all. I could be wrong.
Okay, well, I'm telling you that channel right now has all the ED products on it. The commercials where you put your balls down in the separate compartment in your underwear. All of those commercials are on that channel. It ain't for old folks. It's the
old folks who's the ones that need the ED pills.
Old folks. I got to go. Y'all
oh man,
about,
yeah. Look.
I mean, isn't that what the commercials are aimed at?
That was one product, brother.
Oh.
I just said, have you seen the commercial for the hammock where you put your testicles in a separate compartment?
You told us about it. You've told us about it.
All that's on that channel.
What's that for, though? I don't understand it.
Say that again.
I guess that's what they call niche programming.
Right, exactly.
And on that note,
yeah.
Oh, help! Yeah, I've been watching Street News Now, SNN.
Catch
us. Yeah, that was well done. Absolutely. You catch us every Thursday. We congregate 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Pacific time. Make sure you go to our YouTube channel, SNN Street News Now, to subscribe, like, and share. For all of us here, for, of course, our fearless leader, Lee Michaels, for Mike Love, for Professor Reggie Miles, for Buck Wild, and also for not Professor, because I already said him already. Dr. Ron Ford. I'm Chris Bass.
And Chris Bass.
Oh yeah, me too. Yeah, that's skin tone. Yeah, that's about right. And for me too, continue to be peaceful and take care.
Peace.
Peace.
There we go.